Welcome to Call Your Hits, a Storm Riders Airsoft podcast. Thanks for joining us, everyone. So, if you've been listening to the show before, you know that This or That is a game that we often play on the show where we ask each other to decide what we'd rather between two potentially unpleasant options. And here today to play with me, I've got two potentially unpleasant options, Glick and Mat. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me.
Always happy to be here.
Thank you for having us, man.
So this should be fun. We've never done that with anyone, with just from me and Pat. So I'll be asking some questions. And before we get into it, I just wanted to give a shout out to Kevin, who compiled many of the questions we'll be digging into, along with a few surprises that I threw in. So should be a good time. And before we get into it, please remember, if you haven't signed up to do Matt's Get Smoked tour in California in April, all the details are on the Discord. You should definitely check it out. It's going to be a crazy fun event that I really wish I could join. But there it is. I mean, it is what it is, but you should check it out. We got lots of people from our community going. It's a Foreign Legion sponsored event. So hopefully many of you will get a chance to get out with these two lunatics and play 3 days of Airsoft.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to that. Dude, it's getting close.
I'm blown away by the outpouring already. We've got like 10 Foreign Legionnaires coming. We've got just raffle prizes out the wazoo. Well, I've got the floor. Sorry, yeah. Flamingo Customs and Matt Kruger of Big Red Airsoft both sent piles of gifts for the raffle to give away. There's going to be obviously more details on that as we post about them and give them away. But I just want to give them a quick shout out, and Flamingo Custom, especially because you were the guys who put us onto it.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm so glad to hear it, and very well deserved. I'm so excited to see pictures and follow along with you guys as you're doing some crazy stuff for 3 days.
Fun fact, this is going to be the first time that I'm outside of the Eastern time zone. I've never been off the East Coast ever.
All right.
So this is big. This is a big one. Yeah.
All right. Well, buckle up. It's going to be a bit of a ride. So, and just like today, this is also going to be a bit of a crazy ride. Some of these questions I think are pretty tame. They'll be, I think, well, we can have a good chat about them. Some of them I think are going to be off your rocker. So
sounds good.
Let's go with the first one here. For both of you, and maybe we'll start with Jordan just to keep it sort of organized, and then we'll go to Matt. Would you rather play with a GBB rifle or an HPA setup for a 12-hour event?
Oh, no question in my head. Gas blowback all the way.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Do you want reasoning as well?
Yeah, okay. yeah. Let's talk about it.
So this is also funny because Matt's given me crap about this before. I am all about not having a tank in line. I love to be able to just hand my my airsoft gun off to anybody that's next to me. So in this specific situation, I mean, you're carrying extra stuff anyways because it's gas blowback. So extra mags, you're carrying propane, you're carrying various things to make sure that that's running. But still, I can hand that off to somebody and not have to worry about having it be connected to something. And gas blowbacks are just a lot of fun, specifically lately, because I have like 4 of them now all of a sudden. So yeah, gas blowbacks, 100% for me.
All right. What about you, Matt?
Oh, yeah. For every 12-hour event I've done, I've had HPA, right?
Yeah, fair, yeah.
From my very first battle for LA, I had almost essentially the same belt kit. I've moved magazines around. I've used different pouches, and then I've actually turned the belt around recently, so the buckle's in the back now. Okay. It gives me a nice little spot in the front to put a grenade carabiner or two. But it's essentially the same kit I've been running forever, and I ran that at Iron Horse. I ran that at Galactic Civil War. I ran it at Galactic Civil War 2, Electric Boogaloo. I ran it at all of the Airsoft Challenge programs, Reno, Big Purge, 2-day events. So, I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. I used to talk shit on the line. That's true. Like, you go back to my first episode, and I'm like, oh, it looks like paintball, and that's not why I'm here. I'm hardcore and cool, right?
I feel that.
And now I'm like, my line is just an extra thing for me to show off. It used to get me caught up on things. That's no lie. But once I found the right length and the right way to route it, it no longer catches on doorknobs or anything like that. And I also occasionally like the blowbacks, sure. But when I feel like that, I grab one of my pistols, and then I have HPA adapters for those, right? And I run an AAP as a machine pistol constantly. I've put 20,000 rounds through my AAP, and when I want to, and that's I'm not gonna lie to you, the blowback action on that when you're firing full auto, it's just like clack, 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 clack right in your hands, and you're like, yes, this is the best.
Yeah.
Blowback is super cool, but I also like to fling way too many BBs to have at maximum, right, like 90 rounds a mag.
I mean, and that's a good question, right? Because I am, as you know, an LMG gunner, and I also like to shoot lots of BBs. But I've kind of gotten not bored, right? But I'll still LMG, but I'm trying to keep the game fresh. And I played my first milsim ever when we went to the prison game with Joe and Kevin and a couple others that weren't in the Discord at the time with my gas blowback. And I had a blast. Like, it was fantastic. That was the first milsim I'd ever been to with it. It kind of adds to the extra experience and difficulty and challenge of it as well. It just kept it real fresh for me. So I don't know. HPA kind of feels like my AGs. It's the same type of feeling. I don't get that with gas blowback. So
that's fair. Do you find that, and I guess this is for both of you, and just for my edification here, do you find like the gas management, like either having your tank that you need to refill or like your mags for gas blowback, that managing that during an event is a challenge? Like, how do you carry enough gas? Do you carry gas on your person? Like, how do you manage?
Matt, you want to go first?
Yeah, this is
okay.
I do the Jordan approach here, and I threw a ton of money at it, right?
Okay.
In my fob bag, I have, and on my belt, I have the very best, most current air tank I could find to hold the most I can. It's an HK Alpha Air. It's like a fat little 68 cubic inch tank in like a footprint of a 48 inch tank. It fits in my medic pouch. And then I have 2 spare carbon fiber tanks, one that I used to run and one that my daughter runs. And I'll carry, if she's not at the event, I'll take both tanks. And if she is, I'll take just the one spare tank. So even if I somehow, and I mean, we're talking like maybe 10,000 BBs later, run my first tank dry, I've got another tank lying behind.
Gotcha. Okay. What about you, Jordan?
So me specifically, when I am looking at gas blowback guns, one of my big requirements is efficiency of them. So there's gas blowbacks that have a ton of recoil, really heavy bolts, like they feel pretty realistic, but typically they are much less efficient on the gas themselves. So I am always looking at like my milsim rifles as I want these to be as flawless as possible, and take the least amount of effort to keep it going. So for me, my guns are all, I can get 2 to 3 mag fills, like reloads of BBs out of a single gas charge.
Okay.
And that means that when it gets cooler, I have a better chance at still being able to get through an entire gas mag without running out of gas, which a lot of heavier recoil guns have a problem with. So I typically leave the propane at base. I'll go out with a speed loader in my mags because I know that's at least 2 or 3 reloads of the magazines that I have. So my gas management is kind of neither here nor there. I leave that stuff for the most part back at base.
Yeah,
right on.
That's where my spare tank is, just base fob.
In your fob back, yeah.
Like so for me, I'm not really carrying much else other than my mags and like a speed loader.
Yeah, I carry mags and grenades. Like we play very different games, right? But essentially we carry all the same crap forward.
Yeah.
It's our fob bags that get fancy.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Speaking of playing different games, here's one that I think you might have different answers to, or maybe not. Would you rather have to carry 300 BBs for a game in 10 low caps or 1 high cap?
I do not want a high cap. No,
dude, I would do low caps.
No, I would go low caps all day long. But you know why? Because reloading is fun.
Reloading
is a lot of fun.
Pat said this years ago, right? The very first this or that. Nobody wants to sound like a maraca first. And the second is like, I'll happily leave a trail of magazines across the field. I've done it before. I'll get behind a piece of cover, throw that magazine at a person, and then continue on, right?
Reloading. I hate high caps.
Cool.
The only time I will use high caps is when I'm running LMGs because, box mag stuff. But besides that, there's nothing like hitting like a really smooth reload in the middle of a bad situation.
Yes.
And getting back out there and putting it down.
And sometimes you don't like realize it till later. You're just like, schwap, and you're shooting a new mag and you're like,
wait, I just did that.
My old mag is over.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I will say though, there have been situations where I've played where I've been like running dry on ammo because it's a thing that I do like on a defense game or something. And someone is like, oh, do you need ammo? Here's a mag. And they hand me a high cap. And at that specific moment, I'm like, this is godlike, because
Sweet.
I went from having 0 ammo to like 300. Let's go. Right. But yeah, I totally hear that. This is a more serious one, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Would you rather play an event that is on flat terrain, like at Iron Horse, or would you rather like multi-elevation terrain for a game?
Go ahead.
Like an
Matt.
event, not a skirmish, like an event.
Multi-terrain, absolutely, all day long. You can make a much smaller space into an enormous space by having just different levels and like not being able to see over a small ridge. Like a ridge is relatively close, right? By airsoft, like it's huge by airsoft distances, relatively close by real world distances. But then you can make like a feeling of a lot more workable space within airsoft ranges. Whereas at Guardian Center, right, DMRs and LMGs held every road, and if we didn't catch an opening at the right moment, we weren't getting across. And personally, I don't like sitting at windows going like this for half an hour necessarily. Once we moved out of the tunnel and we had accomplished all our objectives, I was looking for fights, and that wasn't what we got. Right at Oroville, at CZ Paintball, or at one of the Purge games at Reno, it's a lot of up and down in a smaller footprint. But man, they're brutal and messy, and you're winded at the end, and you're like, it's great. Wonderful.
I totally agree as well. I think that flat fields are boring for the most part. I don't care how big it is. Being able to, like Matt said, use natural terrain changes, natural elevation dips and drops, and ways to move around the field without the necessary need for like physical built-up cover, just by using the natural terrain, it absolutely changes the game. Plus, it adds that extra challenge of having to go up and down when you hike up the top of a hill, like a big hill, and you set up a perfect ambush, and it took you all the time to get up there because nobody else wants to do it because it's hiking up a damn hill.
Yeah,
it's super, super rewarding.
And
then
it
also
way
sucks
more
at
tense
the same time. So,
when BBs come on you once you're into that position. Because you're like, I hacked all the way up here, dude. No, not again.
Yes, you're like, wow, I've been walking for 25 minutes. I just got here, and we're about to go down. Like, yeah, no, bad. But elevation all the way.
Do you find that there's a like a break even point where it's like the elevation is it's no longer fun, like it's too hard? Like, have you ever hit that in an airsoft game where you're like, man, this is just, I'm maxed out now and like I can't keep going? Like, has that happened?
I've played at a field with a good amount of elevation. Feel Good has a really big they call it summit, like hill on the top of the field, and that's where a lot of our events would end, or it'd be like a main control point. And it sucked hiking up that hill, and even with that, it never made me not want to play at that area. It was just that added challenge. Now, if it was that over and over again everywhere, then maybe I could understand if I was playing in the mountains or something. But I've never had the opportunity to play at a field that was that difficult with that much elevation change to complain about it. Fair.
What about you, Matt?
I have. Absolutely. At one of the Reno games, and I got to tell you right ahead of time, this is between like, and I'm not entirely sure, but the border town where we meet up before then is 5,600 feet of elevation. And as we've discussed before, I exist at 0.
Yeah.
So if it would have been completely flat up there, it would have whooped me easy all day. But there are some hills that are like straight up, and you're like hiking up them, and you're not getting enough air. And by the time you get to the top, like younger kids who are playing up there a lot more often are like sprinting up after you. And you're like, oh no, oh God, why? And that's like years back. I was at an event out there where I wasn't prepared for that. I hadn't like hydrated enough. I hadn't been in elevation in forever. I didn't have a team. I didn't have friends, so I wasn't having a good time anyway. And I had like a lot of type 3 fun out there that time. But since this time, I know better. I eat better. I hydrate better. I prepare better ahead of time. I have more fun at the Reno games than I did before, especially on that vicious middle hill. And now that I know that there's a way you can go around the side and it's not quite as steep and I know better, it's a little more fun.
Fair enough. Would you guys rather be forced to stay and fight in one spot, or be able to only fire one time before having to move to a new piece of cover?
Like one time, like you shoot one BB?
Like you engage, let's say you can shoot like one burst or whatever, but then you have to move. You cannot stay there anymore.
I'd much rather do that. I'd much rather do that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, Iron Horse Tunnel.
Yeah.
That okay. I would consider that kind of like being stuck in one position. Even though we could move around in that tunnel, we were stuck there, right? being forced to be mobile is not really a bad thing as long as you were constantly trying to pick out like a proper route. And it also doesn't mean that you have to move to a new position every single time, right? Like you might be able to shift fire and move to 10 feet to your right to another piece of cover and then move back. That could be tiring, but I'd much rather do that than be like, oh, as soon as you get the bead on you in that one spot, you're dead. Like there's nothing else you can do. You're locked into that one spot. So moving all
surprising answer from you. I expected the reverse because I figured like as an LMG gunner, like the whole idea is you get to a point of domination and you just like not necessarily clamp down on it forever, but like you just utilize that until it is no longer viable and then you move. That was my sort of where my mind was going.
Well, so like as an LMG gunner, that is a very common, like people think like, I'm just going to get this, put my bipod down and just be there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work a lot of the time. In airsoft ranges, when it's not like I'm outranging people by 150 feet, because that's not realistic all the time. Almost every time I'm never doing that. Maybe I'll have like a 20 to 30 foot reach advantage on people without a proper setup. But as soon as they lock you down, you're done. You can't do anything anymore because they can outfire you from multiple angles. At least if you are able to move from cover to cover, you can take advantage of like that first burst that you put down to put their heads down and then get to the next spot. But I never like peeking the same spot twice. It's kind of like video games. If you peek the same wall twice, the same doorway twice, you're probably going to die. And that's kind of how I think of it in airsoft too.
Okay. Matt, I think I know your answer.
Well, to be fair, it is field dependent or situational. If I'm feeling very thematic on a given day, like the first day of Purge last year, we ended up on a hill and there was a circle of us in a hill that was also in a valley, right? So there was a perfect circle. And I looked in every direction. There was somebody firing at enemies, and we were the last team. So there was 5 teams coming on us, every direction, literally everywhere. And this is a moment that is going to be locked in my memory forever, is looking around and seeing each of these dudes on this hill firing but we died, right? We all died. We died. That's how that situation ends every time. You die. Every time, like if I want to play the objective, and that's how I play airsoft, we got locked into that when there wasn't anything about it. It was just got to have that moment because but that isn't how I normally play. No, a burst and then move is how I play. I don't fire twice from the same piece of cover. I don't fire twice from the same angle ever. If I have to, you're going to catch me going prone, kneeling, standing, trying to get a different angle around it. But I don't fire twice, and then like so that's not even a non-issue, right?
I agree with you, Matt. Like I just this last weekend I was playing CQB, and sometimes you can't move every single time you shoot because sometimes you're locked into that specific zone. But I have almost never peaked at like head height and then peaked at head height again. It was always like peaked at head height, went low, or peaked at head height, then went wide. Like there was never I'm just holding this angle, peaking it, unless I'm not being challenged. That never happens.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm going to challenge you with this question now. Would you rather play using a 3-point sling or no sling?
No sling.
I ran no sling this weekend. I'd much rather do that. Yeah. So
no sling.
Here's the well. First of all, I'm waiting to get a sling for the AK because I ran the AKM this weekend.
Okay.
And I didn't have like one that I really wanted to use on it. But yeah, no, I feel like I would just get tangled up in a 3-point sling unless you were saying that I've trained with this 3-point sling.
You have not.
Okay.
Nobody trains with a 3-point sling. They're garbage.
I'd rather not use a sling then. It still sucks, but I feel like it would suck a little bit less.
Yeah.
I mean, it also depends on the game. If I'm going to like a 48-hour milsim, I'm taking a 3-point sling. If I'm going to CQB, I'm not taking that. No way.
Yeah, if you're hauling like your LMG or whatever, and there's no sling and you have to carry it for 36 hours, you probably would take the worst of the two options.
I'd take a leather belt like with paracord holding onto my gun over nothing at that point. I guess it really depends on the situation.
Same answer for you, Matt.
Basically, yeah, it's situational, but and I mean it would take a while though. If it was day of skirmishes, even though if I had like things I needed to pick up or move, I would still go slingless. Battle for LA, I would have done if I did it again. I would do it slingless. Iron Horse, I wouldn't spend too much time standing around. And I do have too many hours wearing a 3-point sling because that's what I was issued, and that's what we all had to wear.
Wow.
Time in both deployments, right? So that It was there all the time, forever.
And
I
you'd
did
still
not know
rather
that.
not use it, even with all that time behind it. You'd rather.
There's a
not
wear
use it.
pattern on all my old like uniform pants, and I only have one pair left for nostalgia's sake, where the charging or the brass deflector wears through on my pants on the left pocket. Yeah, and I hated it, and we had to carry them at low ready all the time. And you'll always see me either carrying it low ready or slung straight across my back, or doing the T-Rex right with my hands just across the front. But those are all 2-point sling things that are a lot more comfortable with a 2-point and a lot easier with a 2-point. And honestly, dude, like unless there's a reason, unless it's gonna be a long game, it's gonna be no sling.
Yeah, there's definitely. Or if your replica is really heavy and you're going to be hauling it for like hours and hours, then
You
I
know
can
what?
see
Put it over
that,
my
but-
shoulder, bro.
I'm going to give a shout out real quick. Jeremy on my team has a 240B. And the first day of a weekend that we went out playing at Autumn Justice at that field in Massachusetts, very hilly, very rolling hills, he ran that shit without a sling. He ran it. He was just carrying it through the woods with no
Oh my
sling the
God.
entire weekend. And I don't know how he did it.
Savage.
I don't know how he did it, but I remember looking over at him and I'm like, "You've just been manhandling that through the woods?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Dude, you would not catch me do that ever, no way."
No, dude, that was like I put that thing like the butt stock over my shoulder, sort of like haul along situation.
Yeah, just carrying it like a stick with like a little cloth at the end, like you're.
Yes, exactly. I think Bryce posted a picture of himself with his MG42 or whatever it is, the MG3, same sort of deal, like just over his shoulder.
I was doing that a lot this weekend with the AKM. Like I'd be walking off the field and I'd have it just, on my shoulder, just walking out. That stuff sucks to hold at angles the whole time. I love slings. I absolutely would say 2-point all the time, but 3 points sound awful, and I don't want to deal with that.
3 points are awful.
What would you prefer for an event? Like, let's call it a 12-hour event. Having to use an impression kit or a speedsoft kit?
I have an answer immediately. I mean,
Let's go for it.
yeah, I'm running an impression kit all day. I mostly run very inspired kits as already as it is. Not true impressions where everything is to the T. But I'm running like the light version of that pretty much all the time. So definitely not a speedsoft kit.
All right. What about you, Matt?
I would probably do the impression kit, but I would pick something silly. Like my older brother was a ranger in Desert Storm, right? So I'd find one of his pictures, and then I'd do like a kit of him, and be like, "Hey, Jason, check it out!" Ha ha ha. Is the thing I would do there, right? Because I'll admit, when we're at a bigger thing, I care about the theme of the thing, right? I want to be thematic. I like Civil War, Galactic Civil War is so cool because it's so thematic. When I do go to, we did Homefront at CZ, and they have you get hit, and you can either call hit or you scream and fall down. And of course, I was slapping the ground everywhere. Ah! Splat! All over in the mud, everything. Dude, I'm about it, right? If we're not just like doing a plain skirmish, I'm for the theme of the event.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's very on brand for you for sure. I would expect nothing less. Would you rather use a replica that you've never used before, like a separate platform, like something you've never used before? Let's call it a FAMAS, for example, for argument's sake. Would you rather use a FAMAS with unlimited ammo, or a replica that you're familiar with but you only get 3 90-round mid caps?
I guess it depends. Are they both performing well?
Yeah,
let's call them close to the same. Yeah.
Yeah, the FAMAS, right?
Yeah.
The FAMAS, does it have a full auto or a burst?
I think it has both, right? It's 3-round burst and full auto and semi.
Dude, FAMAS,
Correct.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got nothing against both pups.
I would 100% run the FAMAS.
I'll rain BBs. Like, I will not stop walking while I fire. Like, I'll be like, "Hey, Jordan, you having a good time? You have some sandwich?"
Yeah, we got BBs.
I'll fire forever.
Yeah. Hey, throw me another mag. Like, that guy's only got 3 mags over there. He's toast. Like, no way. I'm not dealing with
fire.
that.
Like, never stop firing.
No,
Make my own lanes and everything.
I've also never been one to shy away from using a different type of replica. Like, that's part of why I have the different guns that I have, because using different style of stuff is fun. It's not like Phil, when you use that AK the first time that you ever ran one. You probably were not very good at using it, but it was at least still fun. It was definitely still fun. It's like a change of pace, and just getting used to it is cool. Like it's I don't really care at this point. I don't really care much about the winning portion. I just care about the having fun. Using something new to me is fun.
There's a saying, there's a saying in French that I think I've said on the podcast before. Basically, it means it changes where it hurts. And so, like, the idea of, like, using the AK for me is, like, it takes my brain and puts it in a different place. So I'm not thinking about the stuff that I think about during a regular game, because I'm like, how the hell do I reload this thing? Like, I've never done this before. Like, it's a completely different... It's like... or like a mashup. You know, when you listen to a really cool mashup of two songs, it's kind of like you're hearing that song for the first time again. Like, it's like that. You're playing Airsoft for, like, the first time again, because it's like, what the hell is even going on? Like, oh, my safety's on because it's a stupid lever on the side and not by my thumb for some stupid reason.
And
like
it keeps
that
it
kind
fresh.
of stuff, right?
It keeps it fresh. I mean, that happened this weekend. I was running the AKM, and I've run AKs like before, but running an AK gas blowback is totally different. You know, now that I reload, I actually have to pull the charging handle, and there's no bolt lock back on empty. So you go empty, and then the next thing you know, you pull the trigger and the hammer drops. Now you know you're screwed. Like, there's no, oh yeah, no, I'm empty, I'm reloading. It's, oh, now I know. And it's at the worst time possible. I like keeping it fresh. That's definitely my answer. The FAMAS for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, look at my wall now, right? Like, a few years back, it would have been just M4s, but there's a shotgun and an AK and an M4 and a blaster and a machine gun. And I've run all of them now because it's totally different. Like, no matter how many ready-ups you do, the first time you hit the field with your new kit is still, like, I didn't realize how much I would love reloading an AK until, like, I literally got in a firefight with somebody, ran out of ammo. He was right in front of me. We ran out of ammo, facing each other. I took my mag and I went thump, and it hit him, and he goes, hit, and walks away while I'm, like, putting my other mag in. I'm like, yeah, bro.
Awesome.
Did not mean to, like, launch the mag at the guy, but I was real excited, right? So I'm just like, yeah! And that's the thing you can't do with an M4 is launch your mag as you take it out. It was great. Wonderful moment. Kudos to that guy. I didn't catch who it was. Sorry, bro.
Would you rather have to wear only tan-based camo, green-based camo, or miscellaneous, like, other, like let's call it, like, just weird fun camos?
I don't know,
I'm
man.
going to go with tan.
I mix my camos all the time, so this is a really tough question. Like, I wear green tops and tan bottoms and stuff.
Well, think about it for a second. Matt, why tan?
I'm going to go with tan because I do go to events sometimes that are tan versus green. And this is in my personal experience. I have found at most events, admittedly, this can't be a thing at Galactic Civil War because it's not tan versus green. Yeah. But in all the tan versus green events I've been to, while there were people on tan who took it way too seriously, the green team has almost always been sort of a shit show in some way or another. I find the guys like the ultra hardcore Rust 4 impressionists are generally very into their hobby to the exclusion of the airsoft game we're at. So I'll be real. I just don't like being around them. I don't like, I've met a few cost dudes at Iron Horse and I don't really like their vibe.
I feel like, people start off playing airsoft in North America and they end up playing multicam. Maybe it's the same in other countries, but, like, they start off with multicam. And so as airsofters get more experience, they don't want to be wearing multicam. So they make the shift to a different type of camo that typically is going to be green, like either M81 or DNC or whatever. And so you don't have those beginners typically on green side. And therefore you have people who, by and large, take themselves more seriously on average compared to what you might find on a tan team. So, I mean, I can see that argument logically. Yeah, for sure. And we definitely experienced that at Iron Horse, no question. What about you, Jordan? You always mix and match, but you got to pick one. What are you doing?
I think I more heavily gravitate towards tan. And the reason is I kind of feel the same way that Matt does. We have some... in our local area, there's always, like, tan versus green. And then they switched it up a bit with having, like, a black and gray team, which a lot of tan migrated to because they were sick of playing on tan all the time. They wanted to wear something different, but they did not want to play on green. Absolutely did not want to play on green. I don't know why specifically. I think I just like tan based camo better. I feel like tan overall looks cooler in general. And I feel like the ground is always brown. The ground can always have some tan. Like, there's always, like, shades of tan and brown around, depending on when you use your camo. But there's not always green. there's definitely not always green all the time, and depending on where you are, there might not be any green at all.
And you got to be like pretty lucky to get the right shade of green anyway.
Yeah, but and I know some of my teammates will probably, like Will specifically, who is a green fanatic, always loves wearing green, different types of green, because he loves,
like my favorite
into the
tan
trees.
is like Jungle Tiger. It's green, right? That is, or my favorite camo rather, not favorite tan. My favorite camo is Jungle Tiger. Hands down. But if you're like, you got to play on the team for your color, it's going to be tan.
I like
you
tan.
Desert Tiger, right?
I like tan specifically. I
But
wear
we had those
flat tan.
dudes. Like I didn't like Sierra Dynamics. They were a bunch of chodes, and so I wouldn't want to be on the black and gray team.
Multicam black is try hard, right?
I don't like multicam black either. Well, that's a different story. I will never wear that ever. I will wear flat black all the time over that. But like tan camos, like I prefer DCU. I prefer Desert Tiger Stripe. I prefer Chocolate Chip. Like those are all really cool camos. And then like on green team, it's like you have, God forbid, multicam Tropic. You got M81. You got Tiger Stripe, and then a lot of weird camos. Maybe Relish if you want to wear it. I don't know. I don't know.
M90. Okay.
M90's cool. Yeah. But you're getting into like the stuff that's not as easily accessible, right? Like tan camo is...
You want M90K more.
Oh my god, I definitely do. Right?
Why do you M90K, Phil? What does M90K look like?
Oh, it's 10, and I'm 100%. But it's the same. Like for me, it's like there's patterns all over that are just outstanding, and you can get them 10 or green. I think. For me, like, I don't necessarily know that I like M90K better than the standard M90, but I like Catpat Arid, for example, a lot more than Relish, which is not setting the bar very high because it kind of just looked like puke. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, so, but I do have, like, like, I think about the camo I have, and I have a set of DCU tops that I got for Iron Horse, or while we were at Iron Horse, I didn't get to wear them down there because of reasons. But, like, that's awesome. Right. And I wear that here, and there is nothing 10 about the environment we play. Yeah.
It's a fashion show. I think tan's a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
I think it's just a cooler color. Yeah.
I could buy that. Although, you could always go with like Alpenflash and or Urban Camo or something really awful if you really want to.
The closest I got to wearing like an alternative camo, kind of like what you're talking about, is I was going to buy like an Op4 like blue DPM that it's really cool. I mean, it's DPM, but it's like blue and gray. Yeah. And I was only going to wear that for like CQB just because it was cool and different. And it wasn't blue M81 or gray M81, which is like a very, very common but very cheap looking like uniform that people will wear. But like blue DPM was always cool. I always thought it was cool.
Sorry, I have to do one real other quick caveat because there is ATAX is a green, or ATAX greens variant. Is used at Galactic Civil War for the Rebels, so then I would wear green.
Oh yeah. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. You could always do if you're looking for a weird one, you can always do like that Belgian like puzzle piece. What is it? Like the blue and pink and like yellow.
Goodness.
No.
Okay. All right.
That's horrible.
Withdrawn.
No. Yeah. Don't talk about that ever again. Jeez.
Would you rather be stuck with a DMR with all regular field regulations, so like MED, whatever you want to talk about, or SMG high kappa situation for like CQB style replica for like an actual entire like event? Which role would you rather fit?
And the idea is that the SMG will be at SMG limits, so like under 1 joule.
Yes, exactly. And the DMR would be at like DMR limits.
Do you get a pistol with the DMR?
It doesn't say so in the question, so I'm gonna say no.
Then you're stuck with having an MED. No matter, let's say for the fun of it, it's a 50-foot MED.
Yeah.
On that DMR, you're running at 2.75 joules or something, which is very typical around here. Actually, it's a 100-foot MED with 2.75 joules. I was going to say you're shooting
2.75 at me at 50.
No, 100 foot. It's 100 foot at 2.75.
Yeah.
It might actually even be a higher joule limit than that, but it's 100. I would not want to ever not be able to engage within 100 feet. I would learn to play around the SMG. I've played with guns that my guns are typically not at the max of the field limit anyways. Like going to Iron Horse, my RPK could have been at like 1.86 and it was at 1.4 or 1.5. I like playing it safe on the FPS limits as opposed to just barely squeaking by because one day it's going to be too hot or somebody's chrono is going to be off compared to yours and then you can't use it. And I've never been the min-max of like I need the max FPS to play. So I would 100%. I've run my gun right now is like a 1 joule gun. So I would run an SMG all day long and just learn how to, close the gap on those people.
I would say the same thing. And actually, this last weekend's a really good example of that. And hey, this is a good time for me to shill for big heavy BB, because a heavy BB and an R hop, or just a good hop in general, is worth more than all the energy in the world, right? Like, there was another dude there, and he and I were both zeroed for 100 feet on our optics, but I had a 0-foot engagement distance at 1.05 joules, which was not the max for 0-foot. It was 1.15, and I was running 3.2s. This guy was running 2.1. He was at 100-foot engagement distance, running 25s. And he could not hit me. He couldn't hit a thing at 100 feet, bro.
Oh, my
and
God.
I was there, and we sat next to each other at like the range. And I'm like, hey, bro, hit the number 7. That's 100 feet. And he's like, phew, phew. I'm like, no, like this. Pop, 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 pop. Ting, ting, ting. And I'm like, see? And he's like, well, how are you getting so much distance? And I'm like, you got to be real far with that, right? And I'm like, no, dude, I'm almost at, I'd go below 1 joule and be perfectly happy. I've done it.
Yeah.
That hurt listening to that. I've seen that. I've seen people with super, super expensive HPA setups at the field. And like I said, I don't run my guns at high limits most of the time. But I run heavy BBs consistently. Always outside, I'm running at least 3.2s. And even past that, like if I'm still at like 1 joule, I'm probably, if it's a gas blowback and it can handle it, I'm probably running 3.6s or 4s. Like that is something that I will absolutely do, because Matt's right. And there's even tests out there. Like, people have done videos at X distance, like at 100 feet, even at 1 joule, a 3.2 is hitting the target faster than a 2.5. Like, it is actually reaching the target quicker. Might be slower out of the barrel, but it's maintaining that energy for a longer period of time. But I'm also a shill for heavy BB. I think I have a bottle of 4.5s downstairs, and a bottle of 4s as well. But it's gas blowback. Like, I won't be running that in like an LMG.
I was gonna say, if you're running that through your LMG, you are you're already made of money. We talked about this.
We need to stop this idea that I'm made of money. I just make poor choices. That's it. Okay. I just make poor financial decisions. But I will run 3.2s in my LMG, and a lot of people that I've talked to are like, no, I would never run 3.2s. That's way too heavy. That's too expensive. I'm like, what are you running? And he's like, I don't know, 2.5s. I'm like, dude, have fun hitting me 200 feet away with those 2.5s. Like, it's not happening. I can consistently make it a threat out at that distance. And you're like, well, I just have a lot of BBs. I can put them down range. I'm like, cool. But we've talked about this before. Accuracy and volume is much better than accuracy by volume. That's not how it works. I don't want to scare you. I want you to know that I can hit you. I want you to know that if I peek this, I'm going to be hit. Not like, there's a chance it could maybe hit me.
And like, mathematically too, like, I've had this conversation with people locally. It's like, yes, your 3.0 or your 3.2 is more expensive per BB than your 2.8 or 2.5 or whatever, but at some point you're using fewer of them because it's more accurate. So yes, it's more expensive up front, but you're buying fewer of them over time. So like, are you actually going to save money? Like, maybe not. But I think what I always tell them is, like, your cost will be roughly a wash anyway, right? And especially if you're looking at, like, some people here who are using 2.5s, and I'm trying to convince them, it's like, hey, you can be using a 3.0, you could be using a 3.2. Like, they are going to notice such a huge difference, right? Just by doing that. And so I also am a shill for for heavy BB. Like, I don't care. It's the way to go.
Yes, it is.
Oh, absolutely, bro. I would not go lighter than 3.2s, honestly. Like,
as long as the field allows it. Like, I have fields that don't allow higher than like 2.5
2.8 or 2.5. Sure,
but even at 1 joule, I'm still running 3.2s at the very least, as long as your gun can handle it. I'm a big proponent of use the heaviest BB that you can hop well.
Yeah, exactly right.
And most of the time, you can hop way better than a 2.8 and a 2.5. Like, at least 3s, at the very least, on most stock guns nowadays. Like, you're probably rocking at least 3s or 3.2s. So heavy BB.
So I'm not sure who submitted this or that, but it could be Flub. Who knows? Would you rather white light for the entirety of a night portion, or digital NVG with constant IR light?
Oh God! No. Wait. So
it could have been Zippy too. I don't know.
Are you saying you have to have the white light on?
Yes, or your constant IR on.
Oh, that's a horrible. That's horrible. I feel like that is two awful things. I guess I would rather white light, honestly.
Really?
Because digital night vision is horrible. For the most part, it does not have the range, and if you have any night game that you're going to that's a milsim event, you are going to be just lit up by every single NVG user because they're going to see you just like you have a flashlight. But with a white light, because if you have digitals on, there's no way of hiding that. You're looking in that direction. If I had a white light on my gun, I could use different methods to keep it hidden or at least reduce the signature. Like maybe I'm keeping it angled towards the ground and I'm keeping my gun really low, or I'm using some sort of cover. Or if you've ever seen I Am Legend, there's a whole section where he comes through like a hallway and there's a bunch of like vampires and he's covering the white light with his hand. Like he's covering it and then pulling it down to show it. I would much rather use a white light because then at least I'm useful to my teammates. And I'm not
a liability.
Yes, that is horrible. I would never do that. Oh my God. Go ahead.
All
Matt.
those same answers for all the same reason, because like I haven't seen a lag-free digital night vision yet.
Yes,
and it is even like the fastest one can't keep up with like a decent jog. And I'm not looking to go down like a manhole or run into a tree or just break my $200 camera across my face because I assume that's some sort of slapdash, rigged up job that somebody did with like a soldering iron in their
so bad.
Garage or whatever.
It's hurting me thinking about it more as I'm because I've been to events where people have done that. Like the prison game that we went to, not the most recent one, but the one we went to before that, there was literally guys with digital quads with the IR lights on the entire time, and I'm like, dude, you are actively a detriment to me and my guys because those guys up there have nods.
You got to lighting me up, on, bro.
Yeah, like I'm like, dude, you got to turn that off, and they're like, I can't see without it. I'm like, turn it off and get out of here, man. Like I don't know, like hold somebody's shoulder, walk up the stairs. God, it was horrible.
Dude, that's as bad as like the guys who white light like stand at like spawn and wait, and then they like light up the whole line in front of them, and you're like, bro, don't do that. Like I'm a silhouette. I look amazing, sure, but I'm getting shot.
Yeah, you're just getting backlit the entire time. No.
Man, I was petrified of turning on my white light at Iron Horse. Like, I'm not turning this on until somebody, like an adult around me, tells me to turn this on. Like, I was rolling with Nick going through and I'm just like, just using my own like dark vision. Not dark vision. I don't have dark vision, but like, you know what I mean? Like my low light vision to try and get around, follow Nick. Same thing when we were going in the building. Like I'm not turning on my flashlight unless Jordan gives me permission to do that because I do not want to deal with the verbal harassment that's going to happen as a consequence.
You know what it is? So a lot of people are like, you can't use a white light at all because you have night vision, right? Like I can't, there's been people that I've seen like, turn off your white light. We have nods. It's like, that's not how this works, right? At a given point, when you get into a firefight, and you're wearing night vision, there's a point where it doesn't matter anymore what kind of light is going on. So, like, I think I told you guys when we were there, as soon as we start fighting, we get into an actual fight, you're free to white light as much as you want as long as I'm not standing in front of you. I do not care at that point because you need to shoot and hit what you're trying to shoot at.
And, like, if you play in a lot of dark situations, you realize that a white light in the distance, once it gets past a certain point, it's just a halo. Anyway, so they're still not pinpointing you any closer than they are just by a tracer or by picking up your movement or anything else. Like once you're in the fight and they're firing at you, they know where you are, bro. Just hit them with the light.
Yeah. When we ambushed those guys by the MRAP, like once we started shooting, I started flashing my light because I think it was Matt Kruger was telling us like, hey, flash guys, if they're wearing nods or if they're not, doesn't matter. Just like strobe your light because that's going to drive them crazy. And so I remember like we were like over the berm or whatever and they said polo and you guys just started unloading on them and I'm just there shooting and like flashing my light to try it, but I couldn't see anything because they were so far away, but it was, neither here nor there, but like I don't think I turned it on after that.
A continuous flashlight won't really stop you from doing anything, right? Like if I have night vision and you flash a flashlight at me, it's going to make me reconsider what I'm doing at that point. But most of the time I can keep fighting through it. It's like whatever. But when you are constantly changing, like the light on and light off, your night vision is constantly readjusting to that brightness condition. So that can be a bit more disorienting, for sure. But flashlight all the way, man. You're not going to catch me out there with digis. Are you kidding me? Whoever asked that question, I'm going to find you. That was a horrible question.
It was either flub or zip, bro.
No, maybe it was zips. Maybe it was zips. I thought higher of you, Zips. If that was you, man.
It's not in my notes, so I can't confirm or deny.
Yeah,
That's okay. He's going to be here. You'll be able to ask him yourself
That's
in
true.
person.
Whoever asked that question, that was a horrible question. Don't ever ask me that stuff again.
This one is not really sort of like a this or that. It's more just a generic question. But I mean, it's an interesting one. Do you prefer Keymod, or Picatinny?
Okay. Go ahead, Matt.
Picatinny, just because it's everything that you buy for airsoft. I'm gonna be real, except for like my glass. All my stuff is good enough as airsoft. Sorry, all my airsoft stuff is good enough. Foregrips, whatever. Like I don't even use any of that crap. I put a scope on, and like M-Lock and Keymod aren't like super common, whereas Picatinny is, especially for optics. And like these days, like the only attachments I'm really putting on are optics, bro. I don't use a foregrip anymore. I use a flashlight. You can go on anything.
My answer is also Picatinny. For a different reason. I think I just like the look of Picatinny rails. Like quad rails is like a very classic look on AR-15 pattern rifles, or there's a lot. Almost every single attachment out there has a Picatinny, interface ready to go. A lot of times you need an adapter for it to fit on M-Lock or Keymod. And that means that you're putting a Picatinny rail sometimes onto that M-Lock or onto that Keymod in order to get your stuff on there.
That's literally what I had to do with my replica, because my grenade launcher was Picatinny, and the rail is a M-Lock. So I had to get the Picatinny rails for the M-Lock. And it's like, at this point, it's just, it's Picatinny with extra steps, right? That's all it is.
Unless you specifically buy an M-Lock foregrip or a Keymod foregrip. But like, it's a very easy to get Picatinny stuff, and most of my stuff is Picatinny at this point. And I don't care about the weight maxing that a lot of people do. Like, well, M-Lock's lighter, or Keymod's lighter. I'm like, dude, I really don't care at this point. Like, just give me something that's solid to mount something on, and I'm good to go.
All right. So for this next one, as I believe I said, you're going to hate it. Would you rather play open play game in flip-flops or bare feet?
Oh my God. I have to put on the flip-flops, bro. Like, I think I'd rather wear them and not run around in bare feet. Imagine stepping on BBs with bare feet, man. That's like stepping on Legos. Constantly.
There's BBs all over my room. I'm gonna have to speak before you get here.
Man, God, what kind of Dan's fencing question is this, bro? Are you kidding me? Jeez.
Bro, they'd have to be really good flip-flops, because I do some running, but like I'm imagining like being in a full sprint and having my flip-flop flip over on the front of me and like eating it, right? And I'm like,
roll over front flat tire on the
like rip the thong out of the flip-flop and just like eat it, bro. That sounds so terrible.
I'm going to be speed walking everywhere with flip-flops on. I'll tell you that.
No, I think I'd still do the speed walking in flip-flops, because the best airsoft field has minimum 4 boards with nails sticking out of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Oh my!
Like an indoor field that is nothing but a warehouse and like water containers. Like there's no business being like a nail board being there, but here we are.
God, that's horrible, man.
Maybe we could split the difference and just do like Crocs in sport mode.
I think it also depends like what kind of field you're playing at. You're like playing outdoors, like in grass and stuff. Okay, maybe barefoot becomes a little bit more tempting, but like indoors on cement and you're running around, like
nope,
no way. I'm not catching. No
shatter
way.
my feet, bro.
Yeah, or like if we're playing somewhere where like Chaz would play, where it's like a lot of sand and rocks and stuff, man. Like I'm not doing that. No way.
How would you barefoot if we were playing like beach soft?
Yeah, like on the sand. Right. Yeah, maybe. Oh my God, that's bad.
Or barefoot if you're only doing like water ops, right? So you're swimming the whole time. Okay, maybe.
Yeah, like I'm treading water, like holding my gun up. Like, good stuff.
Would you rather play in rain and mud or snow and frozen ground?
Rain and mud.
Rain and mud.
Rain and mud all day long.
Yeah. I play in rain and mud, dude. I love rain and mud. Yeah, it's a blast, man. But
some of the best games I've ever played have been in the rain and mud. Snow is dangerous. Ice in snow is very dangerous, especially if it's snow with ice underneath it. And I fall all the time anyways, even in good conditions. Add ice and snow into that mix. No, absolutely no way. The worst thing about playing in the rain is getting wet. The worst thing about playing in the ice and snow is falling and hurting yourself. Like that is and breaking your stuff. I've broken so many mags and gun, like dropped. I've fallen with like my RPK and broken the plastic box mags like so many times, man. Like no way. I try not to play in those conditions anymore. So rain and mud all the way.
Yeah,
How much experience do you have living in California with the airsoft in the snow?
Okay, not a lot living in California with airsoft in the snow, right? But I was at Fort Drum for 4 years, right? So I did plenty of time in the snow to be able to compare there. And I did, honestly, dude, I did paintball and Nerf when I was up there. So whatever, figure it out. Snow and mud every day, all day. I can change my clothes out and like be instantly dry, bro. But once you get cold, you need like a warm space and a warm drink, and you need a blanket and like a plush, like a teddy bear, and like somebody to tell you that you're a special big boy for being so strong while you drink hot beverages.
That's a good point. Like you need to take into account the extra gear you need to play.
Definitely
in the cold. That's another whole thing. It's not fun to play that bundled up, man.
And like a lot of airsofters don't. I mean, in my experience here, like, and I've done it myself, they'll underdress because, well, it's not fun to be wearing your big parka with your airsoft kit and your parka's blue and like all this kind of stuff. But the reality is the consequence of that is, you're wearing desert boots because they're a vibe and your feet are absolutely freezing the entire time. And it doesn't get cold enough here that, frostbite is and our games aren't that long anyway, but like that's a real concern. But if you're playing like a longer mil sim and you're not dressed appropriately, like you were saying, like, you're joking about, well, you need someone to make you feel like a special boy and like a big, warm cup of whatever. But like at some point it becomes a real concern, just like heat casing when we were in Atlanta is a real thing too, right? It's a hazard, and that's not even talking about slipping and falling, which is the number one concern with frozen ground, especially, right?
Well, yeah, I think that the thing that really tips it is snow and ice.
Yeah,
just snow. Like if you're playing on like fresh snow, like you're getting your first like 4 or 5 inches of snow this year, okay. But as soon as it becomes ice underneath that, man, I've played in the snow and ice with like the cleats, like the clip-ons, like cleats to go underneath my shoes. You wrap it around with like the rubber grips.
Yeah,
and that's fine, but it sucks. Like it really sucks. And all you have to do is catch an edge, like in hockey skating. You catch a cleat on the wrong thing, going too quick in the wrong direction, and you're toast. You're hurting yourself, man. Not fun.
Yeah. And even here, like, there's lots of times where we've gone like with snowshoes or whatever, and the snow is deep enough that you're post holing anyway, right? You're just falling in, and you've got like snow to your to like your mid calf or whatever, or no, mid thigh, excuse me. And like, it's exhausting on top of everything else, right? It's just hard. And like every year, many years ago, Frontline used to do like their Battle for Stalingrad, which was always on like St. Patrick's Day weekend, which is like March 18th or whatever. And people would play that, and we had great times. And most of the Storm Riders, the biggest of the team, was formed as a result of that. But people were bushed because it's so hard. It's so hard going in the winter to constantly have to stay upright, not fall over, and then try and navigate through 3 feet of snow and all. Like, yeah, it sucks. So I'm definitely with you guys for sure. I got one last question here, and I think this is a very interesting one. I'm curious to hear what you guys say. Would you rather play with your friends or against your friends?
Well, so I mean, I definitely would always rather play with them, like as like a baseline. That's like part of the most fun I have with the game, but it depends. If I'm playing like CQB and it's like quick games, I'll shoot my friends all day long. I will shoot my friends. That's a lot of fun. Because it's like a good challenge. Shoot, it's guys a lot of times that are at your skill level or better, and like it's going to be difficult fighting them. But at a milsim where I need people I can depend on, I want to play with my friends all day long.
Matt,
I mean, it's similar to that, right? Like if we got a two team huge event, then maybe I would. I honestly, it's a hard question for me, dude. I love fighting my friends. One of the most fun things in the world for me is seeing one of my buddies across the view and be like, "Hey, I'm coming for you. This mag's for you."
No.
Or seeing
let it
somebody
be known.
like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm going to drop a grenade at your feet. Get ready. Here comes Matt." It's honestly like those are my moments. I love them, but also like if we're sitting in a tunnel for 2.5 hours and I'm there with a bunch of randos and just killing my friends as they come through the door without any other interaction, that wouldn't have been fun.
Yeah.
That would have been terrible later on because we would have talked and be like, hey, how'd it go? And you'd be like, well, I ran out of the door and got shot every time I came through. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like 12 times. Yeah, that was me. I was the guy behind the door.
Yeah.
No, I would be lying if I said when I go to Cali that I'm not going to play many rounds against you guys. Like I'm not going to be playing with you guys the whole time. I want to shoot you. I want to shoot Zips. I want to shoot Huck. Like I want to shoot whoever else is coming. Dan, Svensson, you're getting shot, man. That's how it's going to work. I want to fight against you guys. That's fun. It's absolutely fun. And then when you kill each other or you land a particularly good shot, they're like, man, you suck. And they give you a high five and walk away. And then they come back and try to get you again. Like,
that's exactly it. I want my friends to experience. I'm not going to lie, bro. I'm going to be a little narcissistic here. I want them to experience me, right? I want Zip to look behind him and be like, what the hell just happened as I run past him with the bomb or whatever, right? I want Dan and Huck to be like, oh shit, Matt just shot me in the forehead, right? I want to gun Glick down in the middle of the road as his friends surround me and avenge him, right? I'm like, take that, Glick. These are the moments, right? Like some of the best moments are when you catch your enemy or your friend and you talk to them later and you're like, bro, I saw you there. This was
a
happening.
Crazy fight. Yeah.
But again, it would have to be dependent because if we were just sitting in the hallway,
yeah,
I want the interaction. I want the chance to fight you. I don't want the stalemate.
If I had one answer, it's going to be playing with my friends all day long. That's what makes airsoft for me. But if we can choose to, which is kind of lame, I could shoot them too. But like my real answer is playing with them all day.
Dude, I really can't.
I definitely. I mean, that's the reason why we make teams too, is because we associate with players and other people who we have stuff in common. And like, at least for me, like the people who I play with, they enhance my play experience by virtue of the fact that they're all better than me, right? So I don't want to fight against them because they're better than me for one thing, right? It's like, geez, like anytime we do, because here, like we often get split up on the team because they're like, it's not fair to have the 6 Storm Riders on like 18 dudes all the time, even though that happens, fair enough. And we lose, and I'm fine with that, but it's like, we can do this more. But anyways, the point is, they're always like, all right, it's going to be Phil and Pat and Chris. And then on the other time, it's going to be Cal, John, and Jason. And every time that happens, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. Because like, they're just going to roll me, right? That's where my mind goes. Like, no, I don't want to do this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I always,
agree.
every time we finish those games, I'll still do it. I never complain. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm never going to be like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I always do it. But I'm always yearning for the time where it's like, okay, when can we all go back out together? Because that's going to slap. Even if we lose, I don't care. Like, just rolling with the guys, so good.
Yeah, shooting your friends is fun, but you know what? It's more fun is not shooting them and being able to hang out with them and do cool things with them. Knowing that I'm going through a doorway and I got somebody behind me that I can trust, and you make a cool move and they're following you up, that feeling is fantastic. It's so much cooler than shooting them and being like, I got you. But it totally depends, right?
No, I get that. No, because like I'm thinking about like, God, now you got it. If it's a hard choose, right, for the rest of my life, it's obviously my friends. Cause,
yeah, absolutely. There's no question. You can't be like.
I love fighting against my friends, but there are those moments where you like pulling up, and then you look over, and your friend is next to you, and it's like, "Hey, Drew, how are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm good, Matt." And I was like, "Let's go kill those guys together." Yeah, I'll go around this way. You shoot the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, and that's something we can still talk about years later, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, boys, thanks so much for being here with me today. This was a lot of fun doing this or that with Glick and Mat. It's maybe something we'll do again in the future, but it was great to have you guys.
I'm always happy to be here. Thanks, fans, for listening.
Yep.
And hopefully you guys get out to Get Smoked at the end of April. All the details are in the Discord, guys. So thanks so much for listening. That's all we got for you this week. Thanks, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.